Hey folks, it's Ghost Stefana here, back again to review one of the biggest games of 2020, The Last of Us 2. Created by the highly rated Naughty Dog and published by Sony, the game acts as a sequel to The Last of Us, released in 2013. This review is from a PS4 playthrough, but all points will still be relevant for those on next gen, apart from where I specify. As always, I'll include no spoilers in this review and all subtitles will be blurred out and I'll only use early game footage. This is The Last of Us 2. Should I buy it? The story. It's common gaming knowledge that the first game in this series really set the bar back in 2013 and won several awards and accolades for all manner of thing, but above all, its story. So, expectations for this one was high. The first game centres on two characters, Ellie and Joel, and both feature in this game 5 years on. We play the majority of the first half of the game as Ellie, but spend a large proportion playing as a new character called Abby. I won't get into who Abby is in this video as I worry it will ruin the story, but it will become very apparent within the first couple of hours of the game. The game follows the similar mechanic from the first one. Put simply, getting from one location to another and navigating your way through a host of obstacles and enemies to achieve your goal. Put more aptly, it's a tale of revenge, desperation, and sadness. The story feels a lot darker than the first game. I'm not suggesting the first one was a kid's game, but it feels like the narrative has grown up with Ellie. Some of the tones are darker, the scenes more violent, and enemies more fearsome. The story wove around lots of corners and contained several genuinely shocking twists. The game had me on several occasions sitting back and just trying to absorb the scene that I had just witnessed. The narrative structure is similar to that of a Quentin Tarantino movie, following two characters, Ellie and Abby, at different times until their storylines meet. This was a really cool way to tell the story and also made the game feel a lot longer and more substantial due to the numerous flashbacks and time jumps. Now, here for me is the defining part of this wonderful story. In most video games, even the best ones, we know who the bad guy is. We have our antagonist and the game tells us to hate them. In this, we play and spend time with both sides, friend and foe, to the point you begin to question which side is which. Now, I have seen some people complain about playing as Abby, but for me, it's added so much to the story. Like the first game, The Last of Us 2 has a strong moral undertone, and the ending left me feeling as emotionally drained as the characters within it. Harrowing, emotional, perfect. 10. Setting. The game features a few locations, but most notably the war-torn city of Seattle. The Last of Us is quite rare in the fact that you don't think about the landscape or the actual place itself. Instead, it's the buildings and what lurks within them that makes the setting. And Seattle certainly boasted some dark areas, whether it be a canon decision due to the virus evolving within the 5 years from game 1, or a creative one by Naughty Dog to up the fear factor. But enemies are so much more menacing. Several times I commented to myself, what on earth is that, as another grotesque infected charged at me. Bigger infected, smarter infected, and even infected that can charge out of the walls when you're least expecting it, added to the fear factor of the game. Don't get me wrong, this game isn't scary per se, and there's far more out there, but it is jumpy. And although most seasoned gamers can kind of anticipate when the jumps are coming due to subtle soundtrack changes, narrative clues, or just intuition, I still made my way through a fair share of underpants. Finally, I'm a gamer who loves collectibles and lore, and around the world we find several notes and letters from those who have gone before, a lot of which are very sad, and some even create their own little mini story arc which progresses the more we find on our journey. Nothing is sadder than finding a desperate suicide note from a soon-to-be infected person lying next to their corpse. Dark, mysterious, with plenty of intrigue, I didn't feel safe once. 9. Characters. Some characters in this game reappear from the first one, but it also adds a host of new ones too, most notably our false protagonist Abby. Again, without divulging too much about her, she is a strong woman, both physically and mentally, who is a rough similar age to Ellie. She perhaps lacks the charisma and humour that Ellie can sometimes possess, and is perhaps quite moody and monotone. But if you're looking for jokes and laughs, then well, you're playing the wrong game. We learn a lot about Abby through flashbacks and discover that she is a really well thought out character with a lot of emotional depth. As for Ellie, she still carries the charm from the first game, but events from both game 1 and in this one leave her much more mature and, well, violent. She's no longer a cute but sassy kid, she's now a woman on a mission. We already have a helping hand because of knowing Ellie's story from game 1, but the game does add more colour to her backstory with other flashbacks and relationships with certain characters. Supporting characters include Dina, Tommy, Joel, Jesse and Owen, to name a few. They may only be supporting, but we have enough time and exposure to them to understand their character. It's also worth noting that the game features a transgender character, something which perhaps shouldn't be noteworthy in 2021, but I can't remember any other video games which have done this, let alone done it so well. Overall, I felt a genuine attachment to all the characters in this game, and the narrative really helps explore relationships between them and the sadness of loss. 9. Gameplay. So normally I claim this is one of the most important categories in gaming, but in this game, less so. The gameplay is obviously good because any game with bad gameplay wouldn't hold your interest long enough for you to even discover how good the story is. But it's fairly simplistic because that's all it needs to be. Combat is very easy to pick up and doesn't evolve too much from the first game. New weapons have been added into the game with the ability to customize them at certain points, making the weapons more efficient or durable. Perks can also be acquired using pills that you find around the world. These perks can improve your skills from fighting to crafting and even stealth techniques. I really enjoyed the inclusion of a diary for Ellie. This was a mechanic which I adored in Red Dead Redemption 2, as it really allowed me to immerse myself more as Arthur and understand his feelings so much more, and it does the same for Ellie here. You do occasionally have to ride a horse and use a speedboat, but both felt comfortable and completely immersive. It's slick, simplistic, and does the job without reinventing the wheel. But did it need to? 8.5. Visuals. Again, this review is based on a PS4 play, so PS5 will naturally boast better visuals. I think anyone who saw the launch trailer back in 2019 knew that this game was going to be visually stunning. It naturally has to be difficult for the developers who are working with so much darkness to make it look visually appealing. Now, some games I like to describe as beautiful. For example, riding your horse across a field whilst basking in the setting sunlight in The Witcher 3. This game isn't beautiful, at least not in that way. The majority of beauty has been stripped from the world, but there's a kind of beauty in the sadness and the ruin. Depressingly bleak buildings littered with dead bodies, infected, and fungus all over the walls, added to the destruction caused by human violence in Seattle, illustrates just how far humanity and the world has fallen. It adds to that overwhelming sense of sadness that this game brings, but it also shines a light on those flashback moments, which are beautifully vibrant memories in Ellie and Abby's heads. Cutscenes are sharp and striking, blood looks immersive, and rainfall really affects your appearance. There's no doubt tears are shed in this game, not just by the characters, but also by me. And in all honesty, Ellie's tears looked just as real as mine. Beautifully bleak, despairingly dark, exquisite. 9.5. Bugs. I always say the shorter this category, the better. And I basically have nothing to add. Throughout my play, I didn't encounter a single bug. I could have been lucky, so please post in the comments below if you have encountered any, but that combined with Naughty Dog and Sony's stellar reputations, I can only give this game a perfect 10. Length. So the game took me 30 hours to complete, but that was me really searching every single room in the hope for collectibles and Easter eggs. Polls from gamers seem to put the average more at 25, and if you want to rush straight through the story, you can apparently do it in 20 hours, but if you want to do that, then you should probably be sectioned. The narrative is really meaty, and I feel like it did end at the right time. Any more would have gone into too long territory, despite how good the narrative is. Despite the actual length, I'd suggest it perhaps feels longer. Now, I put this down to the flashbacks and time jumps. You feel like you've played the game a lot longer because you've played so many years in the game. There are also some false endings. I was playing the game late at night thinking I was at the end of the game, but in truth, there was about 5 more hours to go. The next thing I know, it's 8 AM and I was late for work. Long, meaty, but justified by the narrative. 9. Fun. This feels like a weird game to label as fun because it's so dark and, well, sad. The character developments and story arcs are just devastatingly emotional, and it's really hard to say that I was having fun, but I was certainly invested, immersed, and enjoyed the narrative. Think of this as a really sad film which you still to this day list as one of your favourites. You enjoy the sadness, right? Put it this way, I didn't want to and couldn't put the game down. 9. Replayability. Would you play this game again? Yes, but not right away. I need a few counselling sessions first. It's a harrowing and long journey, and I do believe you feel as drained as the characters at the end of it. For that reason, it's one which you will always remember, but will probably revisit in a year or two. New Game Plus is available, so you can jump back in with all of your upgraded weapons and perks, but your second play is unlikely to be any different from your first. However, I have no doubt you'll still get lost in the narrative. 7. Value. This is the category where we look at the current cost and tell you if it's worth it, but I can pretty confidently say that it is. Even if Sony wanted me to pay £400 and include my girlfriend as part of the deal, I'd still probably do it. It's firmly in the category of must play, and it's a game which will be talked about for the next decade. As I speak right now, it's listed at £30/$40 roughly, which is a great price, even if, and I'm sure it will, creep back up to its release price, get it. But with it being that low right now, I recommend you close YouTube and buy it right now, after you've subscribed, of course. 10. And there we go, a standout, beautiful, emotional masterpiece. I loved the first game and I love this one even more. As always, a huge thank you for watching my review. If you're new to my channel and like what you see, please hit subscribe. I post a new review every 2 weeks and try to be as honest as I possibly can. If you're picking up this game because of my review, then let me know in the comments and let me know if you agree or disagree with any of my points.